Imagine answering your phone in the middle of the night, your heart pounding as a distorted voice whispers your name, describing details of your life only someone close to you should know. Imagine that same voice calling the police, taunting them, confessing to crimes with a chilling calmness, and then vanishing into the static. For decades, these haunting calls have tormented families, investigators, and entire communities. Tonight on Chilling Mysteries, we dive deep into one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in American history. The serial killer known only as the Unknown Voice. The case that has left behind a trail of bodies, unanswered questions, and a chilling collection of audio tapes that may now hold new clues as technology and public awareness have evolved. It starts in the late 1980s in a small Midwestern city. A young woman, Maria Jensen, disappears one evening after her shift at a local diner. Her family reports her missing the next morning. There's no sign of struggle, no witnesses, and no leads. 2 days later, her mother receives a phone call. The voice on the other end is warped, almost robotic, but unmistakably human. "I have Maria. She was beautiful. She screamed for you." The call is traced, but only to a public payphone in a neighboring county. The call lasts just 20 seconds. Maria's body is found a week later, dumped in a remote woodland, her cause of death determined as strangulation. The police are stunned by the brutality, but even more unnerved by the phone call. In the months that follow, 2 more women disappear within a 50-mile radius. Both victims are found dead. Both families receive similar, chilling phone calls. The killer seems to be watching, waiting, and above all, wanting to be heard. As the city's fear grows, so does the killer's confidence. The calls become longer, sometimes targeting the victims' families, sometimes dialing the police directly. Each call is laced with taunts, cryptic clues, and a sense of omnipresence. No fingerprints, no DNA, no clear motive. All they have is the voice. 911 dispatchers report the same thing. The caller knows things that only the killer would know. He describes the crime scenes before police arrive. He references details not released to the public. His voice is always distorted, as if run through an old tape recorder, making identification nearly impossible. He laughs. He whispers. He cries. Each call is a performance, a psychological attack as much as a confession. The media dubs him the Unknown Voice. The case explodes into national headlines. The FBI is called in. Audio experts pore over the tapes, but the technology of the time offers few answers. Voice recognition software is in its infancy. The killer's manipulation of pitch and speed renders every sample almost useless. The only consistent clue is a background noise, a faint metallic clinking, like chains or tools, and a distant humming, possibly from a refrigeration unit or industrial machinery. As the investigation drags on, the Unknown Voice escalates. He begins calling journalists, leaving cryptic messages, even sending letters with cut-out magazine letters. In one chilling incident, a local radio station receives a live call during a morning broadcast. The host, thinking it's a prank, laughs until the caller begins reciting the names of recent victims. The station is flooded with calls from terrified listeners. The police arrive too late to trace the call. Years pass. The murders continue, but the pattern changes. Sometimes the killer waits months between killings. Sometimes only days. The victims vary in age, race, and background, making profiling nearly impossible. Some are abducted from their homes, others from public spaces. In every case, the only link is the phone calls. Always to the families, always to the police, always in that same chilling, distorted voice. In the mid-1990s, the case takes a new turn. A detective named Lisa Harmon, assigned to the task force, begins to see a pattern others have missed. She notices that all the payphones used to make the killer's calls are within a 3-mile radius of an abandoned meatpacking plant on the outskirts of town. Surveillance is set up. For weeks, nothing happens. Then, late one night, a payphone rings. The officer on surveillance answers. It's him, the Unknown Voice. He knows her name, her badge number, even what she had for lunch. He hangs up before the trace completes. When police search the area, they find fresh cigarette butts and a half-eaten sandwich, but no sign of the killer. The tapes are sent to new labs as technology improves. Forensic audio experts clean up the recordings, isolating the background noises. The metallic clinking is now more distinct, possibly chains hanging from the ceiling or tools hitting metal racks. The humming is identified as a refrigeration unit, common in meat processing plants. Investigators swarm the abandoned facility, but find nothing, no evidence, no clues, no indication that anyone has been there in years. Then, the case goes cold. The calls stop. The murders stop. For almost a decade, there is silence. The city breathes a collective sigh of relief, but for the families, the fear never truly fades. Some move away. Some refuse to answer unknown numbers. Some keep the old answering machine tapes, hoping for closure. But in 2009, the calls begin again. A new generation of detectives is on the case. The first victim is a college student, abducted from a parking lot. Her parents receive a call within hours, same distorted voice, same taunting message. She's with me now. Don't bother looking. The police are stunned. Is it a copycat or has the unknown voice returned? The mo is identical. The background noises are back, though fainter. Forensic audio analysis, now far more advanced, isolates more details. The clinking is now rhythmic, almost like a chain swinging against a metal pipe. The humming is higher pitched, perhaps a more modern refrigeration unit. The police release snippets of the audio to the public, hoping someone will recognize the voice, the background noises, or the phrasing. The response is overwhelming. Hundreds of tips flood in, most dead ends, but a handful stand out. Several callers mention a local man, Harold Briggs, who once worked at the old meatpacking plant and has a history of mental illness. Police investigate, but Briggs has an alibi for the most recent murder. He's ruled out, but the connection to the plant is reinforced. At this point, the case draws the attention of independent investigators and internet sleuths. Online forums dissect every detail of the case. Audio engineers, true crime enthusiasts, and even retired detectives join forces to analyze the tapes. One breakthrough comes from a user who identifies the background humming as a specific type of industrial freezer, manufactured only between 1985 and 1992. This narrows down the possible locations where the killer could have made his calls. Another user analyzes the cadence and speech patterns of the unknown voice, suggesting that the distortion masks a regional dialect, possibly northern Minnesota or Wisconsin. Linguists chime in, comparing the tapes to regional accents, but the distortion remains a significant barrier. Still, the clues begin to coalesce. A man familiar with industrial refrigeration, likely with roots in the upper Midwest, possibly connected to the meatpacking industry. The police re-examine old employee records from the plant. Dozens of names emerge, but most have moved, died, or been cleared. One name, however, stands out. Charles Chuck Redding, a former maintenance worker who disappeared around the same time the murders stopped in the early 2000s. Investigators track down Redding's family, who claim he moved to Canada and cut off contact years ago. No trace of him is ever found. Meanwhile, the calls continue. In one particularly disturbing case, the killer calls a victim's sister, describing in detail the layout of her home, her daily routine, even the names of her pets. He ends the call with a chilling promise, "You'll hear from me soon." The family is placed under police protection, but nothing happens. The killer seems to thrive on fear, psychological torment as much as physical violence. In 2015, the case takes another dark turn. A retired detective, now terminally ill, decides to release a collection of unreleased 911 tapes to the public. These tapes, never aired before, contain raw, unedited calls from the unknown voice. One tape, in particular, stands out. The killer calls the police, describing in detail a murder that hadn't even been discovered yet. He gives the location, the method, even the time of death. When police arrive at the scene, everything matches. The level of detail is staggering. It's as if the killer is watching from the shadows, one step ahead at every turn. The release of the tapes reignites public interest. Podcasts, documentaries, and true crime channels dissect every word, every pause, every background noise. New theories emerge. Some believe the killer is a former law enforcement officer, given his knowledge of police procedures. Others speculate he's a long-haul trucker, explaining his mobility and the varying locations of the murders. A few even suggest the calls are a group effort, a cult, or a network of killers sharing the same modus operandi. But the most compelling clue comes from a forensic linguist who notices a peculiar phrase repeated in several calls. "The night sings when the cold wind blows." It's an odd, poetic line not found in any common literature. After extensive research, it's traced to an obscure poem published in a small-town newspaper in Minnesota in 1982, credited to a C. Redding. Investigators are stunned. Is this the same Charles Redding who vanished years earlier? Did the killer leave a breadcrumb decades before the murders began? The authorities dig deeper into Redding's background. He was known to be a loner, obsessed with tape recorders, and spent years working night shifts at various industrial plants. Several former co-workers recall his fascination with true crime stories, especially those involving taunting killers like the Zodiac and BTK. Redding also owned a collection of police scanners, and neighbors remembered seeing him walking late at night, sometimes muttering to himself, sometimes carrying a small recorder. Despite these leads, no concrete evidence ever links Redding, or anyone else, to the crimes. No fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses. The killer remains a phantom, his voice the only trace of his existence. The calls eventually stop again, leaving behind a legacy of terror, mystery, and unanswered questions. To this day, the case of the unknown voice remains one of the most chilling unsolved serial killer cases in American history. The tapes are studied in criminology courses, analyzed by amateur sleuths, and featured in countless documentaries. For the families of the victims, the calls are a constant reminder of the evil that lurked, and may still lurk, within their communities. But recent advances in forensic audio technology have given new hope. In 2022, a team of researchers developed software capable of removing audio distortions and reconstructing voices from heavily altered recordings. The FBI has quietly reopened the case, submitting the original tapes for analysis. Early results are promising. The software has extracted a partial vocal signature from the unknown voice, revealing subtle speech patterns and vocal tics previously masked by distortion. Investigators are now cross-referencing the vocal signature with thousands of recorded voices from law enforcement, local industry, and public records. It's a painstaking process, but one that could finally lead to a break in the case. Meanwhile, the killer's legacy lives on, online, in the media, and in the nightmares of those who received his calls. The case is a chilling reminder of the power of fear, the limitations of technology, and the cunning of those who hunt from the shadows. So what do you think? Is the unknown voice a single, elusive killer, or could it be something even more sinister, a group, a network, or a copycat inspired by decades of terror? Do you believe the new technology will finally unmask the killer, or will he remain a ghost, forever taunting from the other side of a telephone line? If you have thoughts or theories, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Chilling Mysteries for more deep dives into the world's most disturbing unsolved cases. And remember, sometimes, the scariest mysteries are the ones that can still pick up the phone and call you. Stay safe and stay curious.